watching The Ugly Atheist. This is the second part of a two-part series where I'm going over the 15 types of distorted thinking, and we left off on catastrophizing. Let me pull up that list again because I don't remember where we left off. Next one on the list is called personalization. And it says, thinking that everything people do or say is some kind of reaction to you. You also compare yourself to others, trying to determine who's smarter, better looking, etc. This continues on with our theme of trying to disparage common human behavior, because I think this is another one that all of us do to one degree or another. Hopefully not very often, but it does seem like just a normal thing that people do is we compare ourselves to each other. We have our own idea of where we stand. It's just a natural human behavior or response to living in a community, is to compare yourself to others to kind of more accurately gauge where you think you stand. And what I do is, I'm sure I'm guilty of this. In fact, I know I am. But I will look at the people who are better, perceptually better than I am. Like I perceive them to be better than I am, and I try to emulate their behavior and try to pick up some habits from them and that sort of thing. So I try to, where it could easily be a negative thing, I try to turn it around into a positive thing where I do compare myself to others, but I focus on trying to better myself rather than putting others down to my level. I want to raise myself up to their level. So I guess it's the same kind of idea where you're comparing yourself, but at least it has sort of a positive spin to it. And the idea that the first part of what this says is thinking that everything people do or say is some kind of reaction to you. I think that's part of paranoia also. And I think I do this too. Well, I have a tendency to do that, I guess, as my default, but I always temper that with just common sense. Like, how could that possibly be about you, you know? So I think most of us that do have this behavior probably have it at healthy levels, and they're able to recognize it and temper it with reality, you know, so they don't go down some kind of paranoid pigeonhole where you think if somebody looks at you funny or doesn't say good morning back to you or whatever, that it's about you, you know. It's not easy to do, but anyway. So now we move on to the next one called control fallacies. Let's see, it says, if you feel externally controlled, you see yourself as helpless, a victim of fate. The fallacy of internal control has you responsible for the pain and happiness of everyone around you. Oh. This is one that I don't relate to. That's not to say I don't have this to some degree, but let me see. Externally controlled. I guess when I see good things happening to other people, I try to examine my own life to see what I'm not doing to achieve that same success. But sometimes I compare myself with others and say, like, hey, we're doing the same things. Like, how come they're successful at it and I'm not? And so I have to kind of dig deeper to see, like, well, maybe I could get better at this and this, or maybe I'm focusing on the wrong things. But yeah, as far as feeling like a victim, I guess there's always that tendency where we kind of have some experience bouts of self-pity. And I think self-pity in small doses is actually healthy because it's kind of a release, you know, like you you take a moment or two to feel sorry for yourself and, cry or whatever, um, alone, hopefully not in front of people. And then you kind of take a few deep breaths, and then you move on with your life, and you get back to healthy thinking. But yeah, I think in small doses, it's not bad to have experienced self-pity. But if it's a constant thing where if you feel like you're a victim of everything, like you're driving and somebody cuts you off, and like, oh, they're always doing that to me. I don't know. Like I said early last episode, like all of these kind of fall into a spectrum where there's the benign version all the way to the pathological version, and I think most of us are somewhere closer to the benign version, but it's not abnormal. These are not abnormal behaviors. Okay, next one we have is the fallacy of fairness. You feel resentful because you think you know what's fair, but other people won't agree with you. This seems like, I think I can relate to this. I think this has to do with people who have sort of a controlling nature to begin with, where you have this idea in your head, you know what the right thing is to do, you know how people should behave in a given situation, like when you hold the door open, they should say thank you. And when they don't say thank you, it is quite the temptation to feel bitterness towards that person, like, where were you raised in a barn? Yeah, I don't know if there's a way around this, like a workaround, other than just understanding that not everybody was raised the same as you, not everybody has the same standards of manners, and so if somebody knows better and they still are mean to you, then it could be that they have some degree of narcissism or something else that's causing that. Because most normal people, when you do something nice for them, they say thank you. But if they don't, it could be a cultural thing. It could be a lack of empathy on some level. If you have the idea or you understand that everybody has their own sense of fairness and it doesn't always align with yours, then you can kind of better navigate these kind of situations. I guess the takeaway here, or the key word on this particular behavior, is you feel resentful, and that resentfulness, that resentment, depending how severe it is and how long it lasts, is probably what indicates where on the spectrum you are, if you're closer to pathological or closer to benign. I usually tend to get over it, unless it's like a repeat offender where like if I'm, going back to the example of holding a door open and then they don't say thank you, and they do it again and they don't say thank you, at some point I'd probably feel compelled to be like, either to say something snide like "you're welcome," which is not the right response. I think that's more passive aggressive. But the correct response would be something like, either stop holding the door open for them. That's kind of passive aggressive too. Like if you passive aggressive too, where you kind of, they're behind you and you just kind of let the door fall on them. They probably deserve it, but I don't think that's the right response. I think if it's bugging you that much, maybe I confront them, say like, I keep holding the door open for you. I notice that you don't say thank you. But then that's going to make things awkward as well. So I don't know, it's kind of difficult to navigate this one. The simplest solution would just be to not hold the door open for them anymore. If they're like literally right behind you and you're going through a door, maybe hold it open, or just wait, check your phone or your watch or something and let them go first, and then go about your day. Anyway, let's go on to the next one because we're running out of time. Blaming. The next one is blaming. You hold other people responsible for your pain, or take the other tack and blame yourself for every problem or reversal. You hold other people responsible for your pain. That's sort of like the control fallacy, right, that we talked about, where you feel like a helpless victim. But maybe In the control fallacy, you're lamenting your lack of control of your condition, and blaming is the next step, where you don't have that control, but you find a scapegoat, and you find somebody who you can focus your negative energy on and say, oh, they're the reason why I'm this way. Could be a family member that you feel didn't raise you the right way, or someone in your life that at one point had control over you, and but no longer does, but you are still struggling and you feel like it's because of that person, like an ex or something. But I don't know. I think, again, this is probably something that's just normal human behavior, and especially if you are getting over a breakup or something, or if you're having a particularly tough time and you feel like a certain person's responsible for that. But this one also says, or you blame yourself, like if you think that you're the source of all your problems, which that is probably not too far from the truth, actually. I mean, some of your problems are outside your control, but most of our problems are directly in our control, the result of decisions that we made. But again, those decisions that we make are a result of our upbringing and our genetic predispositions and our responses to dopamine. So yeah, there's really you can't blame yourself necessarily for these things. Or I don't know, this is a tough one, because this one like rings true, like you are the cause of most of your problems, but at the same time you're not. So there's like a paradox baked into this particular behavior. So let's move on to the next one. It's called should. It says, you have a list of ironclad rules about how you and other people should act. People who break the rules anger you, and you feel guilty if you violate the rules. Yeah, I think a lot of authoritarian religious authoritarianism has this in spades, where the ironclad rules are the Ten Commandments or the Word of God, and if someone acts or behaves outside of those rules, then woe be to them. They're going to feel the angry wrath of these people. But this kind of reminds me of the one we just did, the fairness? Which one was it? Control fallacy of fairness. Yeah, that sounds similar to that, so I don't know what the difference is. Fallacy of fairness, you think you know what's fair. And the should one is you have a list of ironclad rules about how you and other people should act. So one sounds more rigid, but they both result in anger. If somebody acts against what you think is fair, then you get resentful. Or if somebody breaks your ironclad rules, then you get resentful. And the solution's probably the same. It's just basic understanding that not everybody follows your rules. I think with religious authoritarianism, though, or fundamentalism, these people don't have the luxury of taking a step back and thinking, well, not everybody's the same, because they feel compelled by the God of their religion to follow these rules and to make sure everybody else does too, which can be scary. If somebody just suddenly doesn't like you because you're not doing what their rule book says you should do, I can see some people getting violent over this kind of thing. I mean, when you're messing with people's religion, or if somebody's taking their religion seriously enough, it could be a problem, but I don't know. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to go, and I think we're almost out of time here. So we'll have to do a part 3. I was hoping to get this done in 2 parts, but we'll do a part 3. And I appreciate you watching, so thank you for watching this far. I know maybe only 1 or 2 of you, probably 1 of you, watched all the way through, which is fine because this is a rather boring channel. But it's mostly me just talking about things that are interesting to me. and it's the stuff that interests me doesn't obviously interest many other people. And there's also YouTube algorithms to contend with, like if I talk about something remotely political, or I'm Charlotte, you're watching The Ugly Atheist, and if you like this kind of content, please like and subscribe, and I will see you next week. Thank you.